Okay, if you watched our R5 first impressions review video, you're gonna know that we left that video with more questions than answers. And in this video, we're going to attempt to answer some of our questions, but also the questions that we got in the comment section from you guys. Now, Canon was very gracious enough to lend us an R5 production model, not a pre-production model, for 2 days in order to do these tests. So without further ado, let's get at it. Okay, first up on everyone's mind is the overheating issue when recording video. Now, I shot 4K HQ because number one, I believe this is the mode that most people are going to shoot in when using this camera. And it's also the mode that we shot in our first review video. So it's nice to compare to that experience. And I've got some very good news and a little bit of bad news as well. So getting into this, I suspected that a lot of the overheating issues was due to the processing and writing to the card internally and not the general camera operation. And to test this, of course, I got an external recorder, the Ninja V from Atomos. And I'd love to show you footage from that, except for the fact that I forgot to save that footage onto my hard drive and before it was deleted. So you're just gonna have to trust me on this. But the good news is that I let that recorder run for 2 hours. And the camera barely felt warm to the touch. I never got a single overheating warning. I don't want to say that it can go indefinitely because I haven't really tested that, but it felt like it could. The camera was just like, it was not an issue. So if you have an external recorder, which you should get anyways if you're recording video because you're gonna get exposure tools, you're gonna get ProRes, you're gonna get a lot of benefits to having that external recorder. You solve the overheating issue for 4K. Now, 8K, we're gonna get into that a little bit later, but that solves that. Now, when I did record internally in this same environment, 23 degrees, pretty much as Canon says, at the 25-minute mark, I got a warning, and then at the 28-minute mark, the camera just shut down. You'll see that my timer on the screen only goes to 26.5 minutes. That's because I started the timer 1.5 minutes late. So in conclusion, beyond my obvious memory issues, if you're going to get the R5 or R6 for video, then you really do need an external recorder for it. And as I already mentioned, there's a ton of benefits for this. You get cheaper media, you get exposure tools, you get ProRes and tons of different flavors of ProRes, and you get a large screen that you can see and turn towards you and all those sorts of things. So the benefits are pretty clear, and you should factor in that external media and that external recorder when you go to buy your R5 or R6. Now let's turn our attention to image quality and detail. Okay, let's start with video quality. Our first test showed a weird discrepancy in the image detail with the R5 not showing much detail boost over the 5D Mark IV. So let's compare the three cameras, the R5 against the 1DX Mark III and the 5D Mark IV. In this example, which is punched in 200%, you can clearly see the 8K image is beyond the resolution of all the others. I wanted to see the R5 and the 1DX pull further ahead than the 5D Mark IV, but it's just fractionally sharper. But this is not the end of the story. Both the R5 and the 1DX Mark III have a new menu setting for clarity. I cranked this up to the maximum, which is 4, and boom, now you have some improved resolution, even giving the 8K a run for its money, all the while not making the image feel over-sharpened. Well played, Canon. So let's dive a bit deeper now and consider how important 8K really is. Everyone gets really excited by a big resolution number, but how much does it really matter? Well, the first case in favor of 8K is reframing. Using an HD timeline with one shot, you get this, then this, and this. So yes, in some situations, 8K is great to have if you have the drive space, but 1 minute of compressed 8K footage is a staggering 10 gigabytes. Now let's play a little bit of a game here. In terms of overall picture quality, here are 5 different images with 5 different resolutions. Can you pick out which is which resolution? These clips have all been conformed to a 4K UHD timeline. And here are the results. Now, I'm not going to make a comment on what you see. That's for you to come to your own conclusions. Next up is color. Canon has always been lauded as having some of the best skin tones and color, although my personal experience hasn't always lined up with that. I do love Canon skin tones, even across their cinema and their photo line, but their colors, for me, sometimes feel a little bit heavy-handed. And I wanted to see how the R5 stacked up using C-Log and then applying a 709 LUT. In these examples, I can't really see much, if any, difference in their color science, so you'll still get what you're used to. Looking at the waveform, we do see slightly elevated highlights in the skin tone, while the exposure in the rest of the image remains the same. So maybe slightly more contrast out of the R5, or it just might need a special LUT. One observation I did make was the latitude of the 8K RAW, which is expected. Even when applying a 709 LUT in Resolve, it's still very neutral and leaves you plenty of room to push the image around. Regrettably, this benefit comes at the cost of eating up a lot of media, and with no way to record RAW externally, overheating is going to be an issue as well. The Canon technical rep did tell me that they try to listen to their users and make improvements on their cameras, so Canon, I'm telling you this right now, make these cameras record RAW externally and you've got a huge hit. But until then, I can't really see 8K RAW being a viable option for this camera. Another question that came up in the comments section was, does the autofocus and head tracking work in the high frame rate mode? The question is a resounding yes. The only issue I can see in this clip is my posture, and Canon has yet to provide a fix for that. And while we're on that subject, the head detect works so great, I can completely obscure my face with a camera and it still knows it's a head. Bonkers. The last thing I wanted to revisit was the photo quality compared to the 5D Mark IV. So I retook some photos. You can see here that while the 30.4 megapixel photo from the 5D looks nice, the bump in resolution and colors in the R5 really stand out. It's easy to be impressed with this comparison, but nobody really complained about the 5D before this. The additional resolution, however, will give you a bit more latitude in the edit as well. And that's pretty much it. Not the fanciest video I've ever made, but I did feel like the R5 deserved a deeper look, and my final thoughts are this is probably one of the best photo cameras on the market for the price, no question. When it comes to video, still a little bit more of a challenge if you don't have an external recorder, but if you do, you're gonna get amazing color science and honestly, the best autofocus in the industry without a doubt. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please comment in the comments section below. I'd love to hear them and I'll do my best to address them. In the meantime, go out there, have fun, and happy shooting. Peace.